Hi, my name's Sophie and welcome to Sophie Knits Daily. I am very excited about this video. If you've seen any of my previous videos, you may know that I've been travelling around Europe in my camper van for the past 3 months, and I'm back in the UK now, and my first trip back in the UK was to pick up my yarn stash and all of my previous knitted projects. And my plan over the next few days is going to be kind of swapping out my summer wardrobe to my autumn knitted wardrobe and going through a lot of my yarn stash and figuring out what autumn projects I'm excited to work on. Sorry if my voice sounds a little bit weird, I've had a bit of a cold, but we'll power through. So I'm currently staying in a house sit in Somerset and it is so beautiful here. I've been here once before and there's loads of nice walks to go on, and so I'm very excited to go to the beach, go on some nice walks, maybe go charity shopping. I've been to a few of the charity shops here before and I've always found some gems, so I'm excited to go back. So I think throughout this video I'm going to just show you kind of knitting projects, sorting out my autumn knitted wardrobe, any kind of old lingering whips that I've got, and just what I get up to over the next few days. I went on a walk here last night and we managed to see some deer just in a field over that way. So because the sun's setting, I think the deer are going to be out again tonight, and I'll maybe show you a few clips of the deer from last night, but hopefully we can see some more deer tonight and maybe a bit closer up. They heard us coming last time, but we've got some advice this time to stay close to the hedge edge so that the deer are less likely to see you coming because there's not a broken horizon. So I'm going to use those tips and see if we can see the deer a bit closer up and maybe take some binoculars. That would be quite fun. There was a huge stag yesterday with massive antlers, so I'd love the binoculars for that. So yeah, I'm excited for this video to show you my autumn plans and take you along on my few days. So my first job has been going through all of my knits, so the knits that I had with me in the van over the past 3 months or that I've made over the past 3 months, and diving into my knitted items from the past, I don't know, year and a half, 2 years, and kind of swapping them out. So putting all my summer stuff away, getting all of my autumn knits out. And you can probably see a lot of knitwear around me. I've had a fairly difficult time choosing what knits I want to take with me on my kind of autumn trip. So I'm not going to be back with my kind of knitted goods and yarn stash now until just after Christmas, like Christmas time. So I've got maybe 2 months, 2 and a bit months of wear with my kind of autumn goods, and then I might be able to swap some stuff out to then get some winter knitted items for like January, February time until we start needing spring stuff. So I've had to be a bit brutal about what I take with me. I've knitted a kind of fair amount of jumpers and garments over the past year and a half, 2 years, and I can't take everything with me in my like kind of autumn travels. So the kind of vision of my autumn travels is we're going to be doing a lot more house sitting, but around the UK, and there's a kind of a combination of city house sits and more rural house sits. So I want some kind of trendy, a bit more maybe kind of fashionable or put together knits for when we're in cities, and then I want some kind of workhorse, can throw on with everything. I'm not too precious about knits for when we're kind of in the countryside and going on lots of kind of autumnal walks and that sort of thing. So I think I've found a fairly good balance with the things I've got around me. I've also got this big box in front of me that stores all of my knitted goods, and I store everything in these kind of plastic bags, which I know aren't the best, and I really want to let my knits breathe. So I've had everything out, I've aired it all out. I'm going to kind of choose some bits and pieces that I think might need a bit of a wash before putting them away for the end of the year. But as you can see here, I've packaged up all of my summer knitted goods. So I've got my Claire vest, my Montpellier top, cloud top, Sabai top, because I'm not going to be needing them again. And also in this box, I've got some lavender bags and cedar flowers, and these are to help kind of deter the moths so that they don't eat all of my knitted things. And I think this has done fairly well. I haven't been with this stash for, I don't know, 3.5 months, and I can't see any moth damage. I haven't seen a moth around my stash or around my knitted stuff, so I think these are working, or I've just got lucky this year, who knows. So yeah, I'll go through the bits and pieces that I have either finished recently and you haven't seen, or that I want to take with me on my autumn travels. So we'll start off with 2 summer tops that I haven't packaged away. These are my 2 summer tops that are knitted in wool cotton blends, and I think these are kind of the most versatile all year round vests. So we have the mixed rib cami that's knit in, all by Florence Miller, knit in a wool cotton blend from CaMaRose. And then I have the Camisole number 9 knit in for Olives cotton merino in the colour bark, and this is by My Favourite Things Knitwear. I find these 2, I just wear them all the time. They're slightly warmer. I can definitely tell they're warmer than my summer tops that are knitted with linen or with cotton. So I think that's perfect for the autumn. I can wear it as a layer underneath a jumper because they're not bulky at all. And then if I need to take a jumper or a cardigan off because I get a bit too warm, I'm still wearing a knitted item and kind of show off that I'm a knitter, I suppose. I always just like wearing hand knit items. I just think, yeah, it makes me feel a bit more confident in my outfit, which is fun. So yeah, because of the versatility of these two are definitely going to stay with me in my autumn wardrobe. Then another jumper that's been with me for a while over the summer that I think is going to stay with me over autumn is my Saglan by Ailbíona McLochlainn. I knit this up in Ireland in May, and it's knitted out of Studio Donegal Wool Spinning Company, which is like a Donegal Aran tweed yarn, and I have worn this every single day since I finished it in May, and there's barely any pilling. I think the tiny little bits of pilling that I can see really close up, they just look like the tweedy bits in the yarn, and there's no felting. It's held up so well. I find it to be the perfect size jumper. I am actually now trying to knit my jumpers to the measurements of this jumper because I like the fit of it so well. I think the kind of mock saddle shoulder is very, very flattering, and also then very easy to knit up because you don't knit it as a proper saddle. You do like a kind of contiguous shoulder shaping with like some raglan increases, but you do it in such a way that you create a kind of saddle look. And I think it's very casual with a 2x2 rib, but it's also in such a fun colour that it jazzes up any outfit. I just throw it on all the time, and I think if I was to leave this behind whilst I go on my autumn travels, I will just miss it too much because of how kind of easy and versatile it is. It probably means I wear some of my other knitwear less because I just find this one so easy to throw on. But I think it's got to stay with me, and it's in such a perfect kind of autumnal colour as well, in this kind of limey green. So yeah, it's staying with me, definitely. The next thing that I haven't shown you and I finished recently and has the potential of staying in my autumn wardrobe is my cloud sweater by PetiteKnit. I knit this in Rauma Puno that I picked up from the Rauma kind of factory in Norway, and I knit this up so quickly. It's on, is it 5 or 5.5mm needles, and it's just simple stockinette. It just, yeah, flew off my needles, especially with all the long drives that I was doing, or I was a passenger for. I was able to get a lot of knitting time on this. And it's really soft. I love the colour. That's the reason that I picked up this yarn. But I haven't really been picking it up as much as I thought I would. And I think the reason for that is that it's slightly too long. My boyfriend's took a few photos of me when I've been wearing this jumper, and I feel like the length of the jumper, it sits just beyond my hips, and it creates this kind of barrel shape at the bottom, a bit like a kind of pumpkin shape. I don't know how else to explain it, but I think the way that it sits at the bottom is very rounded and makes me kind of, it doesn't really flatter my body basically. So I had a hunch that this one is long, and I had knit a cloud sweater before. This is my first cloud sweater by PetiteKnit, and I think this was the first wearable jumper that I ever made, but second jumper that I did make, and I absolutely love this. I feel like when I throw this on, it feels trendy, I feel cool, it's very easy to throw on, and because I love this so much, but I've been hesitant to wear this, I was intrigued to see what the differences were. So I actually had a look at this yesterday, but I'll try and show you. So this is kind of very makeshift showing you, but you can kind of tell at the bottom that my first cloud sweater is like maybe 4 or 5 centimetres shorter than my second cloud sweater, the pink one. And I think because of that, I'm gonna shorten my pink cloud sweater and then see how I feel about wearing it. It's a really, really easy knit to shorten because I'm just kind of, it's just a normal bind off. It's not anything like sewn that I need to unpick. So I unravel the normal bind off. There's not much of a kind of detailing at the end. I think it's like 10 rows or so that I need to unravel, and then I just need to do this kind of rib section and then the roll again. So it won't take long. It'll maybe take, I don't know, an hour or two, and then I think I'll get a lot more wear out of this. So that will be perfect. That's kind of on my list of things to do over the next few days. And if I like the fit of that when it's shorter, there's no reason for me to take 2 cloud sweaters. So I think my first cloud sweater is going to stay behind. I'm just going to use it and keep it out as a reference. Right, next I'm going to go with some knits that I'm slightly unsure if I'm going to take. I absolutely love all these knits. I'm not unsure about them, but it's just very hard to make decisions of what's going to be your definite wardrobe for a few months. So this is my Monday sweater by PetiteKnit. I knit this in Tynn and Drops KidSilk, and I really like this. I think this is really perfect for my autumn wardrobe because I absolutely love the kind of dark chocolatey brown colour, which is very in at the moment, and I think just suits me really well. I also think this is a perfect autumn layer because it's knit on quite small needles. I think it's 4mm needles, but knowing me, I've probably gone up to 4.5mm needles, and it's a fairly kind of light fabric, but because of the silk mohair, it's very warm, and the Tynn as well itself is very warm, so it feels like a really kind of easy light layer to throw on, but it's still going to give me the warmth. And because it's so kind of thin and light, I'm able to wear a jacket over the top as well. So I think this one is very versatile and will be very good in my autumn wardrobe. These two here, I'm unsure if I'm taking, so these might not make the cut, but I'll talk you through them. So this is my Cumulus blouse by PetiteKnit that I knit in 2 strands of Drops KidSilk in the colour Green Apple. And I love this knit, I love the colour. I get a lot of wear out of this when I have it in my kind of wardrobe. I think it's very easy to dress up or dress down. You could kind of wear it with some fancier trousers or just with jeans. I've worn it with a white top underneath, and I really like the look of it. I think again this is kind of like the Monday sweater. It's very versatile in that it's a very kind of light thin fabric, so it's easy to kind of like throw in my bag and carry around, but when I put it on it's very warm because of the silk mohair. So I think it's good for autumn. I think it's also very good for city trips and the cities that I'm going to, because it feels a bit kind of fancier, and I'll feel kind of cool walking around a few different cities in this kind of nice mohairy layer. I think it's one of those knits that doesn't really look store-bought, or if anyone was to think it was store-bought, they'd think, oh, that's very fancy. So yeah, I really like that. It's something that you probably find difficult to pick up from a shop, just like a high street shop. And yeah, I really love the look of it. So I think I'm leaning more towards this is making the cut for my autumn wardrobe. And then this one is my Norma sweater by My Favourite Things Knitwear that I knit in Manos del Uruguay alpaca heather that I bought as part of a kit that was made for a blanket. I bought it off Vinted, but I used the yarns to make this jumper, and I really like this jumper. I think it's very autumnal colours, and if I wasn't making another colourwork jumper at the moment, I've almost finished a colourwork jumper that's on my needles, but I'm kind of making a project vlog about that, so you'll see that at some point. If I wasn't making that, I think I would take this, but I don't think I really need to have 2 colour work jumpers in my autumn wardrobe. In saying that, I've just looked to my left and I've got 3 stockinette jumpers, so kind of, 4 stockinette jumpers. So maybe I do need 2 colour work jumpers in my autumn wardrobe. I do think the colours in this are very, very pretty. So again, that's a potential. I'm kind of 50-50 with that one. I love a slipover, and I think slipovers again are very versatile in the autumn because you can wear kind of many different layers underneath and dress to the weather. So this is my Sealay slipover by PetiteKnit that I knit in Erica Knight wool local Aran in the colour Ingleton. I am surprising myself with how much of these yarns I can remember. I really like this. I've worn this by itself. I've worn it with a t-shirt or a long sleeve top underneath. Again, you can throw a jacket on over the top because you haven't got really any bulk on your arms, so it's really easy to wear a coat with it. So I think it's very versatile for the autumn, again, autumnal colours. I have found when I've been trying to wear this over the past few days that I'm lacking in plain t-shirts to wear underneath this top. Where I've had such a kind of limited small wardrobe over the past few months, my basics are now all looking a bit worse for wear. They've either got holes in or stains on, or I've lost a few. So I definitely need some more kind of simple basic t-shirts that would pair well with this colour. I think, yeah, the colour makes a big difference. I have really bright coloured basics, but it's a very unusual yellowy green colour, if I can describe it that way. So there's very specific colours that would kind of match this vest. I do plan on going charity shopping today, so I would love to take this with me in my autumn wardrobe, and I'm going to look out for some tops that kind of suit and match this colour. So yeah, this one's going to come with me. My other slipover that I'm 50-50 on is my vest number 2 spring edition by My Favourite Things Knitwear, and this is knit in a strand of a drops yarn that I can't quite remember. It might be Lima. It's the thinner wool alpaca blend, and a strand of Surrey alpaca, which is hand dyed by Cami. And I love this. I absolutely love the colour. I think it's so fun and interesting, and I kind of referenced this vest in one of my previous videos when I was in Trondheim? No, when I was in Bergen in Norway. I was seeing lots of kind of fun hand-dyed art yarns in all of the different yarn shops there, and it made me think of this vest and made me think, oh, I'd love more of these vests in different colours because I do absolutely love this colour. My only hesitation is, I think because the majority of the content of this yarn is alpaca, with 50% of the drop yarn being alpaca or something around that, and then a strand of alpaca, like Surrey alpaca. I think because of that, it's really stretched, and it definitely feels bigger when I'm wearing it than when I first knit it up. And I don't know if it just looks a bit too oversized now. I think it would be a really difficult garment to unravel and like frog and re-knit because it's so fluffy that I think, yeah, that would just be a nightmare to try and unravel it. So yeah, I'm maybe going to try and wear this over the next few days, and if I'm picking it up regularly or feel like I want to wear it and I'm happy with how it looks, then it might make the cut for my autumn wardrobe. But yeah, this is such a fun one. I think it looks very different than the other knits that I've got here that are all kind of browns, greens, neutrals. This is a fun pop of colour, so I think I maybe do need some more colour in my autumn wardrobe. You've probably seen on quite a lot of my previous videos that I've been wearing my Rauma tote bag quite a lot, and I'd like a little upgrade, so I'm happy to be back to my bag collection. And I have this terrazzo bag by PetiteKnit that I knit in Isaiah Aran tweed in the grey colour that has kind of tweedy flecks of a taupey brown and kind of darker grey. I think this is just the perfect kind of winter bag. It's a big like barrel bag, it can fit loads in, I can definitely fit a few knitting projects in there. And yeah, I think it'll be a nice upgrade to my tote bag and just kind of jazzes up any sort of winter outfit. Even if I'm not wearing anything else knitted, I can just throw this bag on and I feel like I'm proudly showing that I'm a knitter. So yeah, it's a fun way to jazz up an outfit. I have this Dagmar zipper jacket next to me here, and this is knit by PetiteKnit, and it's knit in a strand of DK weight wool from a family member's farm, which is Willowfield Farm. And I absolutely love the Dagmar zipper jacket. I got a lot of wear out of this. I finished it in, I think it was April time when I was in Scotland. So when I was in Scotland and Ireland, and then when I came back to England, when it was still a little bit chilly, just kind of pre-summer, I got a lot of wear out of this. So I do feel like I've got my wear out of it for the year. I do think it would be very nice to have in my autumn wardrobe because it is a bit heavier. It's more of a jacket, so I can wear it as kind of my outer layer rather than wearing a jumper and then needing to put a coat over the top. And I don't really have any nice looking coats. I have more like waterproof coats and things that are kind of versatile in my limited wardrobe. So I do think this would be very helpful to have as like a heavier, warm jacket, particularly because by the time I get back to all of these knitted goods, it's going to be the end of December where it could be quite chilly. But I do already have a lot of knitted items here, and then I plan on making some more over the winter or the autumn winter. So again, this is a 50-50. I'm going to leave my 50-50s to the side, and then maybe I'll just decide, depending on how much room I've got left in the van. I am going to be able to kind of take more items with me in the van this time because the van is just going to be used as a means of transport between different house sits. So it's nice to be able to expand my wardrobe a bit, but yeah, I don't need everything. I'm not going to wear everything. And it's nice to kind of appreciate and love a few items at a time and really get to grips with kind of how to style them and yeah, just enjoy wearing them. So I think that's the summary of my autumn knits and what I think I'm going to take with me. I'm going to go and have some breakfast. I haven't even had my coffee yet this morning, so I need my morning coffee. And my voice is going a bit funny. I think I said in the previous clip that I've not been particularly well over the past few days, just had a bit of a cold, so you can probably still hear that in my voice. So I'm going to go have a coffee, and I think we're going to go on a nice walk today. It's brightening up a little bit outside, and I absolutely love this walk that we go on, which kind of overlooks the sea. So yeah, I'll take you on the walk and see you later. That walk was so nice. We went to Helston Point and we went to the Coast Guard lookout tower that was up there. That is kind of a bit of ruins now, but you can see where the old fireplace was and the decoration above the windows and doors, and the view there is just absolutely incredible. There was no wind for some reason, so you could really hear the sea even though we were so high up, and yeah, it's just beautiful, and the villages around there are really pretty. It's like what you see in a postcard, proper kind of chocolate box villages, very, very sweet. So yeah, that's been a nice morning. But now I want to kind of focus on my whips and talk you through what my whips are. So I've been very excited to pick up my Sweet Shop blanket since being back to all of my knits and stash and projects. This has been on my needles for quite a while now, but I didn't take it on my kind of last trip with me because it's fairly large. The blanket itself takes up a bit of room, and all of the kind of main colour and the contrast colours, they take up a bit of room as well, and it was just too much room for the van. But now that we're packing a bit heavier and going from house sit to house sit, I can take a bit more with me. So my Sweet Shop blanket is going to be coming with me, and I'm just enjoying kind of seeing it work up, seeing all the colours, trying to organise where to put the colours so some colours aren't too close to each other, which I haven't done the best job at, but I'm trying. And yeah, it's just a fun mindless project to work on, very kind of TV knitting. I have done 2 squares since I last showed you this a long time ago, and both of these, this blue one and this kind of mustardy coloured one, like ochre coloured, are John Arbon yarn that I picked up from their open mill weekend. These ones didn't have labels on, they were kind of offcuts and just 10 or 20 gram mini skeins. But I wish I knew what this ochre one was, because it's really, really soft. It feels really nice. It's maybe like a merino or something. But yeah, I'm trying to use somewhat close to DK Aran weight for this project. And if that means holding 2 strands together, or for this blue one, I held 3 strands together. It must have been like a lace weight yarn, because I needed 3 strands to get gauge. And yeah, I'm just enjoying working on this. I have this bag of maybe 15 more contrast colours that are either single skeins that I've picked up on my travels or leftovers from projects that I'm able to put into this blanket. And I may kind of acquire some more DK weight scraps along the way. So I think I'll take enough for maybe 20 more squares of my kind of main colour yarn, and hope to add 20 more squares on over the next few months. Around 20 more squares. It'd be nice to get this to the point where it's kind of a comfortable blanket, even though it won't be as big as I want as my end goal. It'll still be kind of usable. It's usable as a lap blanket at the moment. So yeah, that's nice, a fun project. I don't know if I said, but Sweet Shop Blanket by Laura Penrose, and I'm using 4mm needles, and my main colour is Drops Fiesta in Off-White, I think it is, or Natural, one of those. Yeah, so that's my first whip. I only actually have 2 whips, so this here is my second whip, and this isn't really the easiest to show you. It doesn't help that I've done half a row, so my needles are in a really awkward place of the project. But I'll start with the yarn. The yarn is Navia Duo, which is a mixture of Faroese wool, Shetland wool and Australian lamb's wool, and it's 50 grams to 180 meters, and it feels very, very plush. It's a very kind of soft, plush, nice yarn. I picked this up at a knitting festival in Copenhagen called Pakhustrich, and this was one of the cheaper yarns there. It's a very budget-friendly yarn because I am on a budget, and that kind of drew me to the yarn. But the other thing that drew me to the yarn is the colour, and I don't know if the colour's really going to come across on camera or if it's only my eyes that can see this, but it's definitely a grey. It comes across as grey from a distance, but under certain lights it has a very purpley hue. I don't think I can really call it purple because it's not, but if I was to compare this grey to other greys, it definitely looks a bit more purpley. And I just think it's a really interesting kind of marl and a really interesting colour, and I think it's working up really nicely, exactly as I imagined. So the pattern is the Pool Vest by McLochlainn. And what intrigued me about this vest is that it's a saddle shoulder design. And you knit the saddle shoulders in kind of an interesting way. They're these L-shaped saddle shoulders that aren't just the shoulders, but like a panel at the back as well. And you knit 2 of these and that you attach together. And then you pick up from the back of both of the saddles and do a back panel. And then you pick up from both of the fronts of the saddles and do kind of your front shaping for the vest. And the point I'm at now is doing the ribbon kind of back and forth for the bottom of the vest. What I still have left to do is the armhole, so the kind of detail around the arms, and the button band that goes all the way around. But I've made very good progress on this vest, and I'm very, very excited to get it finished because I really want this as an item in my wardrobe. I'm excited because it's a good colour that will match with everything and will match with kind of loads of basic tops and jeans and those sorts of kind of casual outfits. But the other thing that's making me very, very excited is the buttons that I'm going to use for this. I thought I'd lost them then. But you may have seen these buttons before. I bought these ceramic buttons from Ginger Twist Studio in Edinburgh when I went in May, I think it was this year. And I didn't have a plan for these buttons when I picked them up. It was a very last minute purchase. I glanced at them when I was paying for some other yarn and thought I need to have these buttons. And I didn't actually even think of these buttons when I bought the yarn and started knitting this. It was only halfway through that I remembered I had these, and what a perfect match. It kind of just goes to show the colour scheme that I enjoy, and that's maybe why they've matched up so well, but I think they're going to look so pretty together. The kind of grey tone of this ceramic button matches this yarn really well, and because it has a bit of marling with kind of lighter grey white colour, I just think it matches so perfectly, and I think these buttons are so much fun and will really kind of add a bit of interest to this vest. And I mean, the vest is already very interesting. It's been very, very enjoyable to work up. Although most of it is kind of simple stockinette, there's a lot of interest added with a very new construction for me, but also a very interesting construction. You do a lot of shaping, there's a lot of short rows. So yeah, I've just had so much fun working on this. I've been slowed down a little bit. Now I've got to the ribbon at the bottom because the ribbon is on 3.5mm needles. The rest of the body I did in 4mm needles, I believe. And I didn't actually gauge swatch for this because my saddle shoulder was my gauge swatch, and luckily I met gauge when I kind of did the saddle shoulder, so I just kept going. I don't know if I have much more to say on this. Oh, other than this is possibly my favourite pattern or pattern writing style that I've ever come across. I've never knit a McLochlainn, or I wish I knew how to pronounce her name. McLochlainn. I've never knit one of her patterns before, so I didn't know what her kind of pattern writing style is, but I'm really, really enjoying it. I think the way that it's laid out is very easy to read. There's sections of the writing that are bold so that you can't miss the important things. It's written really clearly. There's a kind of panel at the side where there's links to lots of different technique videos to kind of help you along with kind of maybe new techniques or just reaffirming techniques. So it's just a really, really user-friendly, easy to read pattern, and based on the pattern writing style, I will absolutely be knitting more of her patterns. So yeah, that's really enjoyable to kind of knit a pattern from a designer you haven't used before and see if you like the style, because this one's really paid off. So yeah, I think that's all I have to say about that project. Hopefully I'll get to update you soon, or kind of show you a clip of me wearing it. That would be really fun. But yeah, these are my two active projects that are on my needles at the moment for the autumn. I think we're going to go charity shopping now. I'm looking out for some kind of very basic tops in plain colours that I can wear with everything, that will kind of match and suit everything. And I'm looking for some heavier trousers. So I have one pair of jeans that you've probably seen in every single video because they're the only jeans that I have and wear. So I'd like another pair of jeans and maybe some kind of heavier winter trousers. I've had to put all of my linen trousers away because it's not very linen trousers weather at the moment. So some heavier winter trousers, some jeans and basic tops is what I'm looking out for. And I also always somehow manage to find something knitting related in a charity shop, especially these charity shops that we're going to go to. I've been to them a couple times before and found knitted related items. So yeah, maybe there'll be some little knitted goods there too. And I think later I'm going to go through autumn plans, which is very exciting. I had so much fun diving through my yarn stash and coming up with some ideas of things that I want to cast on for autumn that are all a little bit different than things I've knitted before. So that's very exciting. I'll talk you through that later, but we'll go shopping first. So charity shopping wasn't very successful in terms of getting clothes. I tried on lots of different trousers and nothing really fit quite right. And a lot of the basic t-shirts were just a little bit expensive, maybe, for charity shop prices. I was seeing kind of basic white t-shirts, grey t-shirts at like £7 for secondhand, which is a little bit out of my range for secondhand prices. So I'm going to have a look on Vinted and see if I'm more successful there. But I did come away with a knitted related item, which is unsurprising. I'm always on the lookout for knitting items. And this one's quite exciting. This is the Man's Knitting Book, Classic Patterns from the 20s to the 50s by Jane Waller, and it was only £4, which is incredible. This book is from, I think, the 80s, and It's kind of a compilation of different men's patterns that were in magazines or books from these times, just kind of all compiled into one book. And at the beginning of each chapter, which is each decade, it gives you a bit of information about what the men's fashion was at that time, and particularly men's knitting pattern fashion, I suppose. So yeah, what sort of things were kind of featured in men's patterns. So it looks really interesting. I'd be quite intrigued to try out one of these vintage patterns. I think it might require a lot of work going into it, where I read through the pattern, maybe write it up in my own kind of modern pattern writing style way, or chart bits that aren't charted, and then yeah, see if I can kind of follow a pattern. There are some really funny things in here. There's a men's swimsuit that I'd love to show you. Here we go, an ingenious suit for sun and sea, and it's like a full body suit for kind of a men's swimming costume with a belt and everything, which yeah, I think is very unusual and quite striking. And then there's kind of classic men's golf club covers. There's something to go over a motorbike helmet. What else I see in here? Shin pads. There's lots of kind of unusual knitted items, and I'm finding it very entertaining having a look through. So yeah, that was my one and only and favourite purchase that I made. In this little segment, I kind of want to talk about what my autumn plans are. So I've got all of my yarn that I've sorted out from stash dotted around, and yeah, I'll just talk you through the plans. So the first and easiest one is going to be a kind of mend, I suppose, or re-knit in a way, of this Monday sweater that I knit for my boyfriend. This is in, oh, I'll get the yarn. So the yarn is West Yorkshire Spinners Fleece Jacobs DK, and it's in medium grey, and I can't remember how many skeins of yarn I bought for this, but I definitely overbought because I have 3 left. But in saying that, the arms of this jumper are just too small, and every time, my boyfriend wears it a lot, he absolutely loves it, but every time I see him wearing it, I just notice that the arms are too short, and it really frustrates me, and I keep saying I need to make them longer, I need to make them longer, so I'm actually going to do that. It's a really easy fix. I've done an Italian bind off on the sleeves, but I can quite easily unpick that. I'll probably undo the ribbing, add a bit of stockinette and redo the ribbing. So yeah, a really, really easy fix, and I've got plenty of yarn to do that. I think the body's okay. In hindsight, I wish I'd have done more short rows at the back so that the back of the body is longer. I don't know if that's because of kind of men's sizing is a bit different to women's sizing. I just used the women's Monday sweater pattern by PetiteKnit for making this jumper. I just knit it in a larger size, but it seems to ride up at the back more than my Monday sweater does. So yeah, I'd change that in a future knit, but I'm definitely not frogging all the way back to do the short rows again, so he's just gonna have to deal with that part. But I can make the sleeves longer. And then I also found out these labels, which I bought again in Ginger Twist Studio in Edinburgh. And I bought these specifically for my boyfriend for this jumper. And they're labels that say this is the back. And because I think there's not that many short rows in the back, it is quite difficult sometimes to distinguish the back from the front. So I'm going to put one of these little labels in. I think they're quite funny. And yeah, I think he'll enjoy this knit a bit more. And maybe I'll give it a bit of a freshen up as well. Depill it and wash it. It probably needs a good wash. I'm trying to decide which one to pick next, but this is the one that I'm most excited about, so I'll show you. Just going to take it out the packaging because the packaging's all quite loud. I've put it into the bags that are moth-proof in it. But I have been very, very excited to use this Cami hand-dyed yarn for quite a while. It's 100% Corriedale fingering weight yarn, non-superwash, and it's 100 grams to 400 meters, and I have 3 of these, so 1,200 meters, which gives me enough to knit a kind of simple stockinette jumper. And I've had this in my stash for a year and a half now, and I absolutely love it. And every time I look at it, I think those colours are so beautiful and I absolutely need something in this. But I am a bit scared of using hand-dyed yarn and having to do helical knitting because I've never done helical knitting before, and I still am not quite sure how to do helical knitting when you're doing increases. So I'll kind of explain what I mean. The pattern that I want to do is the Saglan by Ailbíona McLochlainn, and that pattern is amazing because it comes in 2 different weights. So I knit my previous Saglan, the green one, in Aran weight, but there's also a part of the pattern which is written for sport weight yarn. I think it's written for 100 grams to 300 meter yarn, which will work out perfectly holding this yarn with another, which I'll explain in a minute. So yeah, I want to knit the Saglan, but the Saglan is knit from the top down in the round, and you're doing kind of raglan style increases at 4 parts. And so with the helical knitting, when you're transferring or slipping those 3 stitches and then picking up the next yarn, I don't know how you would do that when you're doing the increases. And I've tried to research and I've looked on Reddit forums and for different YouTube videos, and I can't quite tell what I would do. And I think it might be one of those things where I just have to do it. I have to knit the helical knitting and then kind of figure it out as I go. It might be that I do the yoke just in one skein and then I do helical knitting for the rest of it, but then I might get pooling in that area. So yeah, I'm not quite sure how I'm going to do it yet, but I am very excited to challenge myself and to use this beautiful hand-dyed yarn. So this doesn't have a name on it actually. I don't know if it is a named colourway. I picked it up from their kind of sale bin at the Woolly Good Gathering, so it might not be one that you're able to purchase, but so Cami have loads of really, really nice hand-dyed yarn. And then when I was in Copenhagen, I picked up this alpaca, 100% alpaca by Sandnes Garn. And this is 50 grams to 400 meters, so a lace weight yarn. And I'm going to hold that with the Cami yarn. Now that I see it together, I think it might be slightly light. But I'll do a gauge swatch anyway and kind of see what the colours look like together. I think it should be okay. I'm holding these yarns together to get closer to the weight of the Saglan pattern, so holding them together gets more of a sport weight rather than this just being a fingering weight by itself. But I'm also hoping that having kind of a solid colour throughout with the hand-dyed yarn will kind of even out a bit of the colours of the hand-dyed yarn, make it look a bit more seamless, a bit less pooling maybe. I've seen Stitches in Stem do that on a Monday sweater that she knit. She used a hand-dyed yarn and a kind of solid colour yarn, and it looked really, really nice. So yeah, that's kind of my aim with this pattern, and I'm very excited. Right, my next plan is also very, very exciting. So I spoke about this earlier actually. This is the yarn that I used for my Dagmar zipper sweater. And this is pure organic new wool, DK weight, and they come in 50 gram skeins. And this is a really beautiful kind of deep chocolatey brown, really soft yarn. And I bought extra of this for my Dagmar because it doesn't have a meterage on the yarn, so I was kind of guessing. And I don't actually have too much extra. I have 3 and a bit skeins. Where's the 4th one? Yeah, 3 and a bit skeins. So I'm going to hold this kind of deep chocolatey brown with this black 100% cotton yarn. It's the Cotton 8 in a kind of sport weight. I'm going to hold these together to make the Axis bag by Rose Knitwear. I absolutely love this bag, and the moment I saw it kind of introduced on Instagram, I thought I have to knit this. I love myself a hand knit bag. I think I said with my terrazzo bag, but it just kind of jazzes up any outfit. It feels quite cool. It means I'm always wearing knitwear in some capacity, even if it's just in my bag. So yeah, I would really like another kind of wintry hand knit bag, and the Axis bag is the one that I've chose. I think these colours go really nicely together. I like a kind of brown and a black combination, and the pattern is kind of unusual where you do some sort of maybe slip stitches, or like I think it's called long slip stitches, which forms a kind of zigzag shape across the bag. And I think, yeah, these will look really nice together for that pattern and that kind of detail. So I'm excited to cast this one on. There's not too much yarn recommended in the pattern, so hopefully it won't take too long to knit, because I think it's on fairly big needles as well, but it might be a bit more of a complicated one because it's an interesting stitch pattern. So it'll keep my mind active and will be quite fun. Right, I feel like I'm flying through these. So the next one I have is this Gepard cashmere lace, which is very luxurious. And I bought this one in Copenhagen as well. I've actually already used half of a skein, and I knit this up into a Florence Miller kilometre scarf, but off gauge. And I thought I had enough yarn to make that scarf, and it was going to be a gift knit, and I was really excited about it, and I spent ages looking for the perfect shade of green for this gift knit. But then I knit, I think it was about 10 centimetres of this scarf, and I weighed the amount of yarn that I'd used. I only bought 3 skeins of this Gepard cashmere lace, and each skein there's quite a lot of meterage. Oh, and each skein is 330 metres to 25 grams. So I thought having 990 metres, I'd have enough yarn to make the kilometre scarf. But with the amount that I weighed and the length that I got, I was only going to be able to make a scarf that was a metre long, which wasn't anywhere near close to what I wanted. I wanted a scarf that was about 2 metres long, so the recipient of the gift could wrap it around their neck as they would normally wear a scarf. So I frogged it back, and I was going to make the scarf skinnier so that I could get more length out of it. And then in the process of frogging this cashmere back, I realised how fragile cashmere yarn is, and it just kind of kept breaking. So the frogging it back process wasn't too bad, and I didn't notice the breaks, but then I went to knit with it again and it was just kind of falling apart. So I don't have too much trust in this kind of cake of yarn. And then I thought, well, now I have nowhere near enough to make a scarf. Let's see about buying some more. So I was leaving Copenhagen the next day, and I had a look to see if the shop was open, and it wasn't, and there were no other shops close by that sold this yarn. I had a look to see if I could buy the yarn online and get it sent to a family member's house, and it was going to cost, I think it was almost like £40 for a skein of yarn, and I got a bit stressed and just gave up with the project. And I felt very disappointed that I couldn't then gift this, and then I felt a bit frustrated because I spent so much on this cashmere and didn't know what to do with it. So I think I need to get this cashmere out of my stash pretty soon, else it's going to sit there and make me sad. And although I don't have enough to make a really long scarf that you wrap around your neck a few times, I definitely have enough to make a nice small scarf, so a Sophie scarf-esque knit. I think I'll probably look for a pattern that's a bit more interesting than the Sophie scarf. I've knit the Sophie shawl a few times, so I want something that is a bit different from that because I'm kind of used to that pattern by now. And I think I'll probably hold this lace weight yarn double, just so it's a bit easier to knit up with, and then hopefully that might strengthen it slightly, possibly, rather than just holding one strand of lace weight cashmere by itself. So we'll see how that goes. I think the colour is really nice. I think luckily the colour suits me quite nicely. I feel really guilty because it wasn't supposed to be mine, but yeah, I think I'll feel better once it's knitted up into a scarf, and I don't want this yarn to go to waste. So yeah, that's my next plan. This next yarn here is actually a recent acquisition and not yet a plan. So I suppose I'll just talk about the acquisition and then what I think I might do with it. I bought this yarn from Pakhustrikk, the knitting festival in Copenhagen, and I wasn't looking for this yarn. I'd already bought the other yarn that I've knit my pool vest with, but I saw this and I couldn't leave it behind because I think the colour is just so interesting. It's baby alpaca Surrey, 80% baby alpaca and 20% Surrey alpaca, and there's 250 grams in this skein, and it's Aran weight yarn in 100 meters to 50 grams. So I bought 2 skeins of this, so I have 500 grams in total, and I think that will be enough to make a kind of stockinette jumper. I also think that it would be quite nice paired with another kind of solid colour yarn, maybe like a white or a cream. I don't know how best to describe this colour to you. It's an orangey greeny brown. I think from first glance you'd probably think it's like a dark green, but it definitely looks orangey in the light, and it's a more like browny green. It's not a lime green. Yeah, I just think the colour is so interesting. I don't know how it's turned out to be this colour. I don't know how they've processed this alpaca, but I couldn't leave it behind, as I said. And it wasn't too expensive either. I think I spent £40 in total, maybe less, £35 in total for 500 grams, which is just incredible. So I had the idea, because it's such a kind of foresty deep green colour, to make it into a Christmas jumper and pair it with a cream or a white as some sort of kind of Christmassy colour work contrast. But I'm not confident on that yet. The other thing that I'm kind of hesitant about is the fact that this is 100% alpaca, and I'm not overly familiar with alpaca and how it grows and how it behaves as a knitted garment. So I'm going to have to kind of do a really thorough gauge swatch, do my research. I have reservations that a jumper might not fit particularly well once this has been washed and worn a few times, and maybe it would be best for me to hold this with a wool or something that has a bit more memory. But yeah, I thought it was an interesting yarn to show you, and one that I would like to use up sooner rather than later, because I just think it's really cool and something a bit different. And then the final yarn that I bought to show you is another unusual one as well. This is the Mohair Biarritz by Richard Poppleton. And I believe from looking on Ravelry, this is a Aran weight yarn, but it doesn't actually have a meterage on here. It's 78% mohair, 13% wool and 9% nylon. And it's a vintage yarn that I found in a kind of antique shop. I have a fair amount of this. I referenced this yarn in my Trondheim video, and I said that the yarns in the shops were all very interesting and colourful and unique, and it's given me a bit of inspiration to use my more unique kind of art yarns and create something creative and kind of out of my comfort zone. So this is the only kind of real out of my comfort zone yarn I have in my stash, and I would like to challenge myself to use this. I think I could make quite a nice like fancy jumper or some sort of top that I could wear to a Christmas party. I'm thinking maybe the kind of blouse #1, but in like obviously a very different fabric. So if you have any suggestions for this yarn, I would really appreciate them. I appreciated looking through all of your suggestions on my Trondheim video, but I just haven't found anything that I'm 100% certain about. But I would like this as a bit of a kind of autumn-winter challenge. And then I think that's everything that I have to speak about. I've really enjoyed kind of talking to you throughout this video and going through all of my autumn plans, my autumn wardrobe, just like everything autumn knitwear related. And I feel a bit more kind of on track now with what I'm going to be working on and focusing on, what's going to fit best into my wardrobe, things that I need to be looking out for. So yeah, I feel everything is kind of set in place in my mind, and yeah, I've just had such a lovely time over the past few days exploring the change of weather, the later mornings, the colder environment, and being able to wear my knitwear. So I hope you're also enjoying somewhat autumn weather maybe where you are. I know it's not autumn for everyone, but I hope you're enjoying the weather wherever you are. If you do enjoy these videos, then I have a Patreon linked below. I really appreciate everyone who supports me over on Patreon, and if you feel like you're able to, then that's the kind of place to support the channel. It allows me to spend the money and time producing these videos without using sponsorships or advertisers that I don't know or use myself, or they don't align with my values. And I just ask for the price of a cup of coffee. I don't provide any additional content over on Patreon because I want all of my content to be available for free for everyone to be able to watch. So yeah, it's just a place to support the channel if you feel like you're able. And I really appreciate you being here and watching the video, and I hope to see you next time.